Hey Pitmasters, what's up? Welcome in a new freshly painted studio. As you can see, we cleaned up the studio, we painted it, we made it look nice, but sadly, as you can see, if Marcin turns around, we're not quite done yet. So bear with us, but at least we're getting a little bit of the spirit back that we always had in the past. So besides the improvement that we did on the studio, I think I found a way to make picanha even better. There's a Japanese restaurant where they take their entrecote, their New York strip, and they take off the fat cap, cut out the connective tissue that's around the muscle, and then put the fat cap and the meat back together again. And I thought, this is a brilliant idea, because this is going to be the way that we're going to make our picanha even better. But I've never done it before, it's never been tested, so you're gonna see it here first. So I went to the store and I got a New York strip, beautiful fat cap on top, nice connective tissue in the middle that we absolutely hate to eat, but a beautiful cut of beef. I also got a picanha, another bit of fat cap on top, beautiful meat. So let's take a closer look at it. This is our picanha. Look at it. What a nice fat cap. That's absolutely essential to a good picanha. And then we got that nice and dark red meat with the intramuscular fat. Look, you can clearly see it. Underneath this fat cap here, there's the connective tissue that I'm looking for. And I'm gonna show you guys where it is later on. You can already see it a little bit right here, in between the fat and the meat. And that's tough and it's hard to eat. And this is our strip loin. Look at that marbling. Let's pat it dry and expose that beautiful meat. Beautiful fat cap. But here again, you see that connective tissue and you can see it here much clearer. And you can see how thick it is. And so the test for today is going to be, can we remove that connective tissue? Can we put the fat and the steak back together again and then make it one big, tender, juicy, and even better steak than it was before? So these two beautiful cuts of beef are going to be the topics of our today's experiment. For this job, I'm going to use my filleting knife. And we want to start out with a sharp knife. Now normally you just need a honing steel to quickly sharpen up the edges, just to make sure that the angle is right, that all of the little brains that maybe has twisted during cutting, you get them in the right angle and then your knife is sharp again. But when your knife's not that sharp anymore, I like to use not a honing steel but a sharpening steel. This is a diamond sharpening steel and I can just with a few strokes make sure that my knife is sharp again. Then I like to finish it off with a ceramic rod, just to get it extra sharp, just to make sure that we don't get any dust from sharpening our blade onto our meat. We're just going to clean it off with a little bit of paper towel and we're good to go. First we're going to work on our sirloin steaks. We're going to use our knife to cut in between the fat and the connective tissue. We almost took all of the fat cap off, but we want to make sure that we leave the last part on so it's still connected to the meat. Now we're going to focus on getting off that connective tissue, that silver skin that's so tough to eat. Work our knife underneath, point our blade upwards and work your way along that connective tissue. Now that we removed the silver skin that was under the fat cap, we're going to be able to close it up again and turn this into steaks. I like my steaks 2 fingers thick, so 2 fingers and a little extra just to show my appreciation for the meat. There we go. Beautiful steaks. Great intramuscular fat, beautiful fat cap, gorgeous. I'm getting some complaints it's not really 2 fingers, but it's definitely 2 fingers with a little bit of love. Look at it. 2 fingers with a little bit of love. 2 fingers. Look at it, beautiful sharp knife going through 1 time. There you go. That's how you do it, 1 cut. Now that we've cut our steaks, we can see that the first 2 steaks doesn't have any silver skin or connective tissue in them. Look at that, they're gonna be great steaks. The problem is the fat is just gonna flap around. So we need to secure this. Now to solve this problem, I'm gonna use a skewer. I'm going to stick it through the fat cap, through the meat partially, then push the meat back down and push the skewer back up through the fat cap once again. Well, as you can see, it doesn't really look good, and you can see that the skewer cut through the fat cap. So that's a problem right there. That's not what I wanted. This is not going to give me the result that I was looking for. I need to solve this problem. The reason that I chose this technique was because of the picanha. That's the traditional way of skewering down the picanha. So I thought it's going to work on my sirloin steak as well, but apparently it doesn't. I want to get in some butcher's twine and figure out if we can tie it up and make it look really good. All right, so there we go. Butcher's twine. Always take double amount that you think that you're gonna need. Take your steak, and now we're also gonna save that floppy bit at the end. Make a little loop, place it around your steak in the center, and secure it. A beautiful steak, well secured. Look at it, absolutely gorgeous. No connective tissue, beautiful amount of fat, beautiful intramuscular fat. So now I showed you the first steak that comes out of the sirloin. But what about the last one? You can see the last one here still has connective tissue running in the center, then all the way down to the end. So there's more connective tissue, not just underneath the fat cap, but also just in between the red meat. Now you have two options. Leave it at that, tie it up, or take it out. And for the sake of the experiment, we're going to try and take it out. I'm going to use my knife and make an incision at where we connected the fat cap and the connective tissue. The connective tissue was not running down in a straight line, and I had to cut off more than I wanted to. Look at that. All the connective tissue. It's just no good. But cutting it out also made me cut out a lot of meat, which is actually quite a shame. Let's tie it up and I'll take a look at the steak and see what it looks like. And look, it looks pretty decent. We got rid of that silver skin that was running in between. Of course we have a little hole there, but who knows, it might hold up on the grill and turn out into a juicy and tender steak. Now we want to do the same thing with our picanha. As we're going to cook this traditionally on a skewer, we're going to cut it up into steaks as well. But first we're going to trim some of the silver skin that's on the bottom off. We'll work our knife along underneath, point the blade up, and carefully, slowly work along that silver skin, trying to cut off as much as we can. Now because we are going to skewer our steak, we don't have to worry about cutting it with or against the grain, because when you cook it classically, you're going to take your fat cap, you're going to wrap this together, you put the skewer through, and you end up with the steaks. You're going to grill the steaks, and then every time the outside is cooked, you're going to slice a thin piece off it. And it's so thin and so tender that you don't have to worry if it's being cut with or against the grain. It will taste amazing and it's going to be tender. Except for that small one part where we have that connective tissue, of course, that silver skin, that tough piece. That's what we want to take out. And again, I like my steaks 2 fingers thick and a little love, of course. Wow, look at that beautiful picanha steak. 5 beautiful picanha steaks and almost perfect, almost there. I hope you guys can see that small thin line of connective tissue. If we take this out, maybe, just maybe, we improve picanha. This is a tricky bit. I don't want to take off too much meat, but I also don't want to take off too much of the fat cap. So I have to be careful where I cut. It has to be precision, surgical precision. I'm straightening out the steak, getting it as straight as possible, which will make it easier for me to cut it. I'm going to take my knife, I'm going to carefully work it along that silver skin. And I'm going to stop right there just to make sure that it's still connected. I'm going to fold the steak back, and now I'm going to go underneath that silver skin, and this is the hard part. I'm going to cut it away from the fat. And this is cold fat, so I have to be careful that I don't cut myself. There we go. Our connective tissue is off. And look at that. This was the best I could do. Almost no meat on there, just connective tissue and a little bit of fat. Now let's fold the steak back again and check that out. A picanha without the connective tissue. Now it's time to skewer it. Put the skewer through. There we go. Fold the steak in. And out on the other side again. There we go. It really looks good. Time to fire up the barbecue and see if this steak turns out as tasty and as tender as I think it's gonna be. So we'll open up our Big Joe, put some fire starters in and light them up. Our Kamado Joe is all fired up, so we're going to be grilling our steaks. We're going to start with our sirloin steaks. We're going to pop these beauties on the grill right over direct heat. We're going to get a beautiful crust on the outside and cook them to a core temperature of 54 degrees Celsius. Our beautiful sirloin steaks are done. We'll let them rest just to make sure that they don't overcook and they become nice and juicy. And while they're resting, we'll sprinkle on a little bit of Madon salt. The salt will melt quickly and will spread out over the meat. It will make the flavors pop. All right, it's time to start slicing into our steak. I'm gonna ask my expert taste tester person that helps me eat steaks. Come on, Denise, let's try some steak. Denise is my expert steak tester. She knows a lot about eating and she likes steak, right? Mm-hmm. All right, let's go for it. Let's take a bite out of these steaks. Now, here you see the difference between a steak that has a part connected. So where we cut it off, there's no connective tissue in the middle, but also when you start slicing it up, it still falls apart. So I'm gonna have to take a bite with a little bit of fat and a little bit of meat. And remember, it's important to eat a little bit of the fat. It's good for you, and at the same time, it holds a lot of flavor, so it's very important for the steak as well. There we go. Wow. It's good, right? No connective tissue to bite of. Approved?
Yep.
See? Now let's slice up the end part of the sirloin, where we had 2 pieces of connective tissue. Well, you can clearly see the difference here. Our steak is falling apart here into little bits and pieces. So it's not very appealing to me. 2 pieces is okay, but I think it's a bit much. Let's try it, see if it worked out just as well as the other one. Are you dropping your steak?
It falls apart.
It's so messy. Of course, the flavor is the same. The tenderness is the same. Everything is the same, except for you end up with all these bits and pieces. It's not as enjoyable as a steak to eat. I really prefer 2 pieces, it's fine. This to me, it tastes good, but too many pieces.
It tastes good.
I'm ask for more. You think Morrison is hungry?
Are you?
Are you? Yeah? Hold on. Hang in there, buddy. You're gonna be fine, Morrison. I love this one better. 2 pieces. With that tasty intermezzo, it's time to start working on our main course, the picanha. This is the part that we're all curious about. This is the one that's going to tell us if this little trick works or not. We're going to place our skewer directly over the hot coals, and we're going to keep it there using our hand to control the motion of the steak. We want to cook it on both sides. We want it nice and hot. We need a hot fire. We want the fat to crispen up. While our steak is cooking, we're going to add a little bit of fleur de sel to the fat cap. Now don't be mistaken, this is not the same salt that we use for the finish. This is not the Madon salt. This is fleur de sel. This is a sea salt, but it's the top shaving, and it's really light in structure as well as the pyramid salt, but it's not pyramid salt. It will stay on the meat better than the pyramid salt, but it's not same as table salt. So it's much lighter, it will much easily melt down and be one with the meat. Our fat is nice and crunchy. We got a beautiful crust on the outside. It's time to slice off the first pieces. This is the traditional way that they do it in the restaurants. Beautiful cuts of meat, a lot of juices and a lot of flavor. They cut it off at the table, and that's a beautiful tradition that we want to honor. Now that we cut off the outside, this can go back on the grill while we do a taste test. We both have a piece of meat with a little bit of that crispy fat, and there we go. That is tasty. Wow. And the flavors are fantastic. And then having that piece of connective tissue, that silver skin in between the fat and the meat, makes the picanha seem to be even more tender. So it really isn't more tender, but you get that experience. And that's really a joy. The only problem is that your fat's not connected to your meat anymore. So if you can get over that, you're gonna have excellent results. I enjoyed it. Great test, good experiment. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Lekker?
Lekker.
See? If Denise says it's lekker, it means it's really good. I'm just translating, just to make sure that they get your excitement that you're trying to get across. If I say fried chicken, you get more excited?
Can we?
No fried chicken today. Well, I'm really excited. That picanha turned out fantastic. It was a good experiment. I'm happy with the end results. I'm happy with how the sirloin turned out. It really gives you a different sense of how you can cook your steak and how you can alter your steak to make it even more tender than when you buy it from the shop. I hope you guys enjoyed this experiment, and if you did, then leave us a big thumbs up and a comment down below. Big thank you to all of our patrons and our YouTube members. You guys freaking rock. Without you, we wouldn't have paint to put on the walls. So thank you very much. That's a little bit exaggeration, but you get the point. It's highly appreciated, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Until then,
Eet smakelijk.
and keep on grilling. And eating. Don't forget to eat. Eat is important.